My name is Mira Lawson. I'm 34 years old, and 3 days before my wedding, my mother canceled every vendor she could reach before I even finished my first cup of coffee. The florist called at 8:17 in the morning, confused and apologetic, saying my mother had told her the wedding was off. By 9:32, the baker, the shuttle company, the photographer, and the hairstylist had all left messages with the same words in them. Canceled. Family decision. For the bride's own good. When I finally called my mother, she did not sound embarrassed, rushed, or sorry. She said, "No daughter of mine marries a nobody," and then she told me my 6-year-old daughter, Ivy, was no longer allowed to be the flower girl because people already had enough questions about me. I was standing in my kitchen with Ivy's little white basket on the table, the blue ribbon hanging loose from one handle, and I remember looking at it instead of answering. That basket, one forwarded email, and an envelope delivered by a woman I had never met would later become the reason my mother's face changed in a room full of people. But that morning, all I knew was that my mother thought she had found the one day she could still own. I did not answer right away. My mother hated silence when it was not hers. "Mira," she said, sharper now. "Are you listening to me?" I was. I was listening to the refrigerator hum, to Ivy singing softly in the bathroom while she brushed her teeth, to the tiny click of the stove clock, changing from 9:34 to 9:35. I was listening to the sound of my own breathing, because it was the only thing in that room that belonged to me. "I heard you," I said. "That's all you have to say?" "No," I said, "but it's all I'm saying right now." She made a noise like I had disappointed her by not falling apart on schedule. "You're being stubborn," she said. "You're embarrassing yourself. Caleb is a sweet man, maybe, but sweet doesn't pay for a future. Sweet doesn't fix the way people will look at you walking down that aisle with a child beside you and no sense in your head." I looked at the basket again. Ivy had spent 2 nights practicing with torn bits of tissue because we did not have the petals yet. She had asked me if she should smile with teeth or without teeth. She had asked if Caleb would cry. She had asked if Grandma Vivian would clap when she came down the aisle. "Do not talk about my daughter like she is a stain," I said. My mother laughed once, small and cold. "You are too emotional to see clearly." That was when I reached for a pen. Not because I knew yet how it would end, not because I had some grand plan. I reached for a pen because my job had taught me that when people started lying confidently, details mattered. Time mattered. Exact words mattered. The difference between "I thought" and "I was authorized" could become the difference between a family argument and a record. So I wrote down the date. Friday, April 19th, 9:36 a.m. Vivian Lawson. No daughter of mine marries a nobody. Then I put the pen down, hung up without saying goodbye, and went to help Ivy rinse toothpaste from her chin. Welcome back to By Then I Knew, where the quiet part finally gets written down. This is a story for anyone who has ever been treated like a problem to manage, a helper to use, or a daughter, only when it was convenient. Some families do not break your heart loudly. They make a plan, call it love, and expect you to thank them for the damage. Stay with me, because what happened at Hawthorne Station looked like a ruined wedding at first. It was not. It was the first time my mother made the mistake of telling the truth in front of witnesses. I grew up in a house where being good meant being useful, not kind, not curious, not happy. Useful. My mother, Vivian Lawson, had a way of turning every room into a small courtroom where she was the judge, the witness, and the person who already knew the verdict. She could stand in our kitchen with a dish towel over one shoulder and make a grocery receipt feel like evidence of someone's moral failure. If my father forgot milk, it was because no one respected her. If my younger sister, Sloane, got a bad grade, it was because the teacher did not understand how sensitive she was. If I needed anything, even something small, there was always a pause before my mother answered, like she was calculating what my need would cost her. I learned early to need less. By the time I was 10, I knew how to start laundry, write checks for my mother to sign, pack my father's lunch, and remind Sloane to bring her tap shoes on Thursdays. I knew which bills went in the ceramic rooster on top of the fridge and which ones went under the phone book until Friday. I knew not to ask for new sneakers until the soles were coming loose, and even then I asked, like I was presenting an apology. My mother called me her little helper when people were around. When we were alone, she called me difficult. The difference depended on who was watching. My father, Grant Lawson, was not a cruel man in the obvious way. That made it harder for me to understand him when I was young. Cruel people are easier to name when they slam doors or throw plates. My father just disappeared behind the newspaper. He sighed. He rubbed his forehead. He said things like, "Let's not upset your mother," and "You know how she gets," and "Can you just do this one thing for me?" That one thing became many things. Watch Sloan. Call your grandmother back. Tell your mother you're sorry. Don't bring that up tonight. Don't make this harder. By the time I was 16, I could read my mother's mood by the way she closed cabinet doors. A soft close meant she wanted praise. A sharp close meant someone had failed her. 3 sharp closes in a row meant my father would look at me across the table and silently ask me to fix it. I got good at fixing things that were never mine to fix. Sloan was different. She was 4 years younger, prettier in a way my mother understood, and fragile in a way my mother rewarded. She cried easily, and my mother softened for her. She forgot things, and my mother called her dreamy. She quit piano, dance, and 2 different summer jobs, and my mother said Sloan was still finding herself. When I quit nothing, forgot nothing, and cried in the shower where no one could see, my mother said I was cold. I did not understand then that families sometimes assign you a role before you are old enough to refuse it. I only knew mine fit too tightly. The first time I remember noticing documents was after my grandmother died. My mother's mother, Estelle, had been quiet and precise. She wore soft cardigans, kept peppermints in a glass dish, and never spoke badly about anyone in front of children. She lived in a small brick house with green shutters and a porch light that came on every evening at 6, even in summer. I loved that porch light. I loved that it was predictable. After she died, envelopes came to our house for weeks. Cream ones, white ones, one thick brown one with a return address from an attorney's office. I remember seeing my name on one of them. I was 15. I picked it up from the hall table, surprised, and my mother took it from my hand so quickly the corner sliced the skin near my thumb. "That's not for you," she said. "It has my name. It's family paperwork. You wouldn't understand." I looked at the little red line on my thumb and nodded. That detail stayed with me. Not because I thought my mother had stolen something from me. I was 15. I still believed adults knew what they were allowed to do. It stayed with me because she had looked scared before she looked angry. Years later, when I became a title examiner, I thought about that envelope more than once. My job was not glamorous. My mother made sure to mention that whenever someone asked, "Mira works with files," she would say, in the same tone other women might use for a daughter who had taken a semester off and never gone back. But I liked files. Files were honest in a way people were not. A deed either had a signature or it didn't. A lien was recorded on a date. A trust named a trustee. A parcel had a legal description that did not care who cried about it at Thanksgiving. My desk at Harrow and Vale Real Estate Law had a scanner, 2 monitors, a mug full of black pens, and a stack of colored tabs. I used more carefully than some people used prayer. I followed chains of ownership for houses, strip malls, farms, old churches, storage buildings, and once, a former bowling alley that had 3 missing easements and 1 very angry nephew. I read mortgages, quitclaim deeds, death certificates, affidavits, old surveys, and handwritten notes from clerks who had retired before I was born. I learned that people hid things in plain sight all the time. They just counted on no one patient enough to look. My mother thought my work made me small. It made me careful. When I got pregnant with Ivy at 27, my mother acted like I had handed her a weapon and asked her to keep it sharp. Ivy's father was gone before my 2nd trimester. Not dramatically. He just faded. Fewer texts, shorter calls, a promise to come by that became a reason he couldn't. I stopped chasing him before my belly even showed, because one thing my mother had given me was a deep fear of begging someone to stay and watching them enjoy the power of it. Vivian did not comfort me. She made phone calls. She told Aunt Maribel before I was ready. She told Sloan with a sigh. She told my father while I was in the hallway and could hear every word. "Well," she said, "at least now Mira can stop acting like she's above making mistakes." I stood there with my hand on the wall and waited for my father to say something. He said, "Viv." That was all. Just her name. Soft, tired, useless. I went to my room and folded the tiny yellow onesie I had bought from the clearance bin at Target. I had not known the baby's gender yet. I only knew I wanted one thing in my life to feel chosen. When Ivy was born, my mother arrived at the hospital with lipstick on, a gift bag, and opinions. She said the baby had my eyes but Sloane's mouth, which made no sense and still somehow annoyed me. She held Ivy for exactly 6 minutes, posed for 2 photos, then told me I looked exhausted in a way that suggested I had failed at birth. But Ivy was small and warm against my chest. She made a little clicking sound when she slept. Her hospital bracelet kept sliding down her ankle. I remember touching the bracelet with one finger and thinking that no matter what my mother said about me, this child would never wonder if she was wanted. That promise became the center of my life. It was also the reason the flower girl basket hurt so much. Caleb Reed came into our lives slowly. He was not the kind of man my mother noticed first. He did not wear expensive watches or interrupt waiters. He was 37, worked as a facilities supervisor for the county library system, and had the steady calm of someone who knew how to fix a leaking pipe without making everyone in the building feel stupid for not knowing how. He had dark hair that never stayed combed, square hands, and a habit of listening all the way to the end of a sentence. I met him because a branch library had a title issue involving an old donated lot, and he was the person who walked me through the building to show me the property line in question. Ivy was with me that afternoon because her school had closed early for a water main break. Caleb crouched down, introduced himself to her first, and asked if she wanted to see the book drop from the inside. She talked about it for 3 days. He never tried to become instant family. That was one of the first things I trusted about him. He did not buy Ivy too many gifts or call himself anything he had not earned. He learned that she hated mushrooms, loved drawing birds, and got nervous in loud rooms. He kept a pack of crayons in his glove compartment after she once cried in a restaurant because the kids' menu had no coloring page. My mother disliked him before she met him. "What does he do again?" she asked. "Facilities supervisor. So maintenance." "Facilities," I said. She smiled like the distinction was adorable. When Caleb proposed, it was in our kitchen. Ivy had helped him make pancakes for dinner because that was what she called fancy backward day. He put the ring box beside the syrup, and Ivy almost poured maple syrup over it before he caught her hand. We laughed so hard that I cried before he even asked. The ring was simple. Oval stone, thin band. Not cheap, but not meant to impress a room either. It fit my hand like it belonged to my actual life. My mother looked at it the next day and said, "Well, it's tasteful." That was Vivian's way of saying she had expected less and still wanted credit for not saying so. The engagement brought out something in her I should have recognized sooner. She asked questions that sounded practical but felt like inspections. Who is paying for what? Does Caleb have savings? Will Ivy be in every photo? Are his parents educated? Are you sure you want a Saturday wedding? People will compare it to Sloane's someday. Sloane was not engaged. She was not even dating anyone seriously. But in my mother's mind, Sloane's future wedding already had better lighting. Caleb noticed. "She talks like your wedding is a group project and you're the weakest member," he said one night while we were washing dishes. I laughed because it was accurate. Then I stopped laughing because it was accurate. "We don't need her approval," he said. I know, but some part of me still wanted it. Not permission exactly. I had lived too much life for that. I wanted the version of my mother I had seen in flashes when I was young. The one who could smooth my hair back when I had a fever. The one who sang along with the radio on Saturday mornings, if she thought no one was listening. The one I kept thinking might come back if I just arrived at the right moment, with the right proof that I was worth being kind to. That was my mistake. The venue was called Hawthorne Station. It had once been a railway depot, then a storage building, then almost nothing at all until someone restored it into a wedding and event space with arched windows, old brick, polished concrete floors, and a glass atrium where sunlight fell in long rectangles. I chose it because it did not look like a hotel ballroom. I liked the old ticket window. I liked the iron beams. Ivy liked that the doors were heavy enough to make her feel important when Caleb helped her open one. The first time we toured it, she stood in the atrium and whispered, "I could walk here." I knew what she meant. Not just walk. Belong. We booked it for Sunday, April 21st. A spring wedding, small enough to feel honest, big enough that my mother could not accuse me of hiding. 86 guests, 12 round tables. White tulips because my grandmother Estelle had loved them. Roast chicken, green beans, rosemary potatoes, a small cake with buttercream, and cupcakes for the kids. Ivy's flower girl basket came from a craft shop, and Tessa Bloom from next door helped us tie the blue ribbon around the handle because my first attempt looked like I had done it in a moving car. Tessa was the kind of neighbor who knew when to knock and when to leave soup on the porch. She was in her late 50s, worked part-time doing alterations from her dining room, and had a laugh that sounded like someone opening windows. She had watched Ivy after school in emergencies more times than my own family had. She never acted like helping made her a saint. When Ivy asked if Tessa was family, I said, "She's Tessa." Ivy said, "That's better." I filed that away without knowing why I would need it later. 3 days before the wedding, I woke up early to finish place cards before work. I had taken Friday off, but habit still pulled me out of bed before 6. The apartment was quiet. Ivy's basket sat on the kitchen table beside the place cards, one ribbon end curling near the salt shaker. Caleb had left a text from his apartment at 5:58. "Can't wait to marry you." Also, I found the missing cuff link. It was in the freezer. Don't ask. I smiled for the first time that morning. Then the phone rang. The florist's name was Denise. She had a soft voice and a smoker's cough, and had been kind when Ivy changed her mind 3 times about whether the petals should be white, pink, or rainbow, but elegant. "Mira, honey," Denise said. "I just wanted to say I'm sorry." "I wish you had called me yourself, but I understand these things happen." My hand stopped over a place card. "What things?" "The cancellation." I sat down. "What cancellation?" There was a pause. "Oh," Denise said. "Oh no." She told me my mother had called at 8:17. She said Vivian knew the family would lose the flower deposit but wanted to prevent further embarrassment. Denise had asked if I was all right. My mother had apparently said I was too upset to talk and that the family was handling it. The family, handling it. I thanked Denise and asked her to forward me anything she had in writing. "Of course," she said. Then, more quietly, "Mira, are you safe?" That question nearly undid me. Not because I was unsafe in the way people mean when they ask that. Because a florist I had met twice had asked with more care than my mother had shown in months. "I'm safe," I said. "I'm just going to need the timestamp." After that, the calls came like weather. The baker had received a voicemail. The photographer had received a text from Sloan first, then a call from my mother. The shuttle company had been told the groom's side could not pay. The hairstylist had already filled my slot because Vivian told her there had been a family emergency. The caterer had not fully canceled yet because the manager wanted written confirmation from me. I could have kissed him through the phone. By 9:30, my kitchen table had become a command center. Place cards pushed to one side. Ivy's basket moved carefully to the chair beside me. My laptop open. Phone charging. Yellow sticky notes in a line. Not a yellow legal pad, because I never used those. I used whatever was closest, and that morning, it was a stack of pale green sticky notes Ivy had decorated with tiny birds. I wrote down names, times, exact phrases. Authorized family representative. Bride too emotional. Mother handling cancellation. Family decision. No daughter of mine marries a nobody. When my mother said that last one, something inside me went very still. I had heard versions of it all my life. No daughter of mine talks back. No daughter of mine gets pregnant without a husband. No daughter of mine works herself half to death for a child's birthday party. No daughter of mine settles. But this was the first time she had used those words to reach into my future and turn off the lights. I called Caleb after I hung up. He answered on the first ring. "Tell me what happened," he said. Not, "Calm down." Not, "Are you sure?" Not, "Maybe she meant well." "Tell me what happened," I told him. He was quiet for a few seconds after I finished. Then he said, "I can be there in 20 minutes. You have work. I have sick time and a fiancé whose mother just tried to cancel our wedding." I looked toward the bathroom, where Ivy had started singing about brushing in circles. She was making up the words. "Don't come yet," I said. "I need to make calls. If you come, I'll want to fall apart. You're allowed." "I know, but not yet." He understood the difference. "Then I'll make calls on my side," he said. "My parents, my brother. Anyone who needs the truth before your mother's version gets there. The truth." Such a simple phrase. By lunch, Vivian's version had already reached half the family. Sloane sent a group text to me, my parents, Caleb, and Aunt Maribel at 12:14. I know emotions are high, but Mom is just trying to prevent a mistake. Mira, please don't make this uglier by dragging everyone into it. I stared at that message for a long time. Then I screenshotted it. Caleb replied before I did. Sloane, your mother canceled vendors without Mira's consent. Do not call that protection. No one answered. At 1:02, the venue coordinator called. Her name was Priya. She was young, organized, and had once sent me an updated floor plan at 11 p.m. with the subject line, "Tiny chair emergency solved." Mira, she said, I need to verify something. We received a cancellation request, but I haven't processed it. I closed my eyes. Was it from my mother? A pause. It came from Mrs. Lawson, yes, but there's an issue with authority. End. That word sharpened the whole room. What kind of issue? She said she was the old billing contact and authorized family representative. Your contract names you and Mr. Reed. The payment method on file for the initial deposit was yours. The final payment came from you. I can't cancel without your written instruction. I opened my eyes. Can you send me exactly what she sent? I can send a summary. I need the exact email, if policy allows. Header included. Priya hesitated. Are you an attorney? No. Title examiner. Another pause, but different this time. Then you know why I'm hesitating. I do, I said. And I know why you called me instead of canceling. I heard papers move on her end. There's something else, she said. This property has some legacy contacts in the system. Your mother's name appears in an old billing note from before the restoration. That may be why front desk staff took her call seriously at first. Old billing note. Before the restoration. I wrote it down. Can you tell me the owner listed on the venue contract? I asked. Hawthorne, Preservation Trust. The pen stopped in my hand. I knew that name. Not clearly. Not enough to place it. But somewhere in the back of my mind, a file drawer opened. Hawthorne, Preservation, Trust. Thank you, I said. After we hung up, I sat at my kitchen table with Ivy's basket beside me and searched the county property records like I had done 1,000 times for strangers. Parcel number first, then owner, then deed history. The current owner was Hawthorne Preservation Trust, as Priya had said. The restored depot had been transferred into the trust 12 years earlier. Before that, it belonged to a limited liability company. Before that, to the estate of a man named Robert Hale. Hale, my grandmother Estelle's maiden name. I stared at the screen until the letters stopped looking like letters. Then Ivy came into the kitchen, wearing one sock and holding her toothbrush. Mommy, she said, Grandma Vivian said I can't be the flower girl? I turned so fast my chair hit the table. What? She held up my phone. My mother had texted me while I was searching records. Ivy must have seen the preview on the lock screen. I took the phone carefully from her hand. Vivian, you need to explain to Ivy that the flower girl idea was never appropriate. She'll be confused if you keep pretending this is happening. I put the phone face down. Ivy watched me with those big brown eyes that saw more than I wanted her to. Did I walk too fast? She asked. That was the sentence that almost broke me. Not my mother canceling the florist. Not Sloane's group text. Not the phrase, nobody. My child standing in our kitchen with toothpaste on her shirt, wondering if she had been rejected because her practice walk was wrong. I knelt in front of her. No, baby, I said. You walked perfectly. Then why? I swallowed. Because Grandma Vivian made a wrong choice. Can I still carry the basket? I looked at the white basket on the chair, the blue ribbon loose again. Yes, I said. If there is an aisle, you will walk down it. She nodded like that answer was enough. I wished I could be 6 years old and believe me that easily. That night, Caleb came over with takeout, his laptop, and a face that told me he had been angry in the car and decided not to bring all of it inside. He hugged Ivy first. She pressed her face into his jacket and asked if he was still getting married. He looked at me over her head. Yes, he said. If your mom will still have me. Ivy considered that. She said yes already. Then I'm counting on it. After she went to bed, he and I sat at the kitchen table with cold noodles. vendor emails, and a printed property record between us. He touched the paper. What does this mean? I don't know yet, but you know it means something. Yes. He nodded. That was one of the reasons I loved him. He did not pretend to understand what I understood. He trusted that I did. I showed him the trust name, the Hale transfer, the old billing note, the cancellation language. My grandmother's maiden name was Hale, I said. I remember envelopes after she died. One had my name on it. Did you get it? No. He did not ask why. He already knew the shape of my family. At 9:41 that night, my father called. I let it ring twice before answering. Mira, he said. And the way he said my name made me tired before the conversation even started. Dad, your mother is upset. I looked at Caleb. He closed his eyes. I'm sure she is. She feels attacked. She canceled my wedding. She was trying to slow things down. She called vendors and lied. He sighed. I pictured him in his recliner, one hand over his eyes, my mother somewhere nearby pretending not to listen. I'm not saying she handled it perfectly. That almost made me laugh. Perfectly. As if there was a correct version of sabotaging your daughter's wedding. Dad, I said, did you know she was going to do this? Silence. That was the answer before he spoke. I knew she was making some calls. My chest tightened. You knew. I thought she was asking questions. About canceling my wedding? I thought maybe if everyone paused, you could think. I looked down at my hands. There was soy sauce on my thumb from a leaking container. I have thought. Mira, sweetheart, I hated when he used that word while failing me. This can still be handled quietly, he said. You can postpone. Let your mother calm down. Then everyone can talk. Something in me stepped back from him then, not dramatically. No slammed door, just a quiet movement inside, like someone picking up a chair and leaving the table. You had 3 days to be my father, I said. You chose to be her witness. He did not answer. I hung up gently. Caleb reached across the table and put his hand over mine. I did not cry right away. I printed another record first. Then I labeled 3 folders. Vendors, venue, family. Caleb looked at the tabs and said, You alphabetize the disaster. I'm good at my job. You're good at a lot more than your job. I wanted to believe that without needing proof. The next morning, Saturday, Tessa knocked at 8 with a garment steamer, a sewing kit, a grocery bag, and no questions. Ivy told me the basket ribbon is acting up, she said. I stood in the doorway in sweatpants and Caleb's old library sweatshirt, holding 3 printed emails. Tessa, I don't even know what's happening yet. Then I'll fix what I can see. She stepped inside, put the grocery bag on the counter, and started unloading crackers, juice boxes, bananas, safety pins, tissues, and a small package of white tights. Ivy has tights, I said. She will spill something. Children sense white fabric. From the hallway, Ivy yelled, I do not. Tessa yelled back, You absolutely do. I laughed. It came out strange, like I had forgotten how. Tessa did not ask for the whole story until Ivy was in the living room watching cartoons. Then she sat at my table, took the flower girl basket into her lap, and retied the ribbon slowly. I told her enough. Not everything. Just the vendors, my mother, Ivy, the venue, the trust name. Tessa listened without interrupting. Her hands moved carefully over the ribbon. When I finished, she said, Your mother always did talk like love was a permit she could revoke. I looked at her. She shrugged. I've lived next door to you for 4 years, honey. Walls aren't that thick. For some reason, that comforted me and embarrassed me at the same time. I didn't want Ivy hearing all this, I said. She's hearing less than you think and more than you hope. That landed because it was true. Tessa tightened the bow. What do you need? I don't know. Then we'll start with what we know. Is the dress ready? Yes. Is Ivy's dress ready? Yes. Is Caleb still showing up? Yes. Are you still showing up? I looked toward my bedroom, where my wedding dress hung from the closet door in a garment bag. Yes. Tessa nodded. Then I'll steam the dresses. It was not a speech. It was better. At noon, I drove to the office because I needed the larger scanner and access to a records database I did not keep on my home laptop. My boss, Harold Vale was 72, semi-retired, and allergic to drama unless it affected a closing. He met me by the file room wearing a cardigan with one button missing. "I am told there is a wedding mutiny," he said. Something like that. "Are you billing the mutiny to anyone?" "No." Shame. He unlocked his office anyway. I spent 2 hours tracing Hawthorne Station backward. The Hale Estate, the Preservation Trust, a trustee address, a notice address that made my hands go cold. For beneficiary notices, one listed address was my childhood home, Lawson Residence, Oak Meadow Lane, my mother's house. I sat very still. That did not prove anything by itself. Old addresses remain on records all the time. People forget to update. Clerks mistype. Trust documents can include outdated contact information. I knew better than to turn a coincidence into a conclusion, so I kept looking. There was a recorded memorandum from 8 years ago. It referenced descendants of Estelle Hale Mercer. I had to read the line 3 times. Estelle Hale Mercer. My grandmother. Not Estelle Lawson. Not the married name I knew. Her full legal name before and after marriage, sitting in a property record attached to the venue where I was supposed to get married. I printed the page. The office printer sounded too loud in the empty building. Harold appeared in the doorway. "That face means you found either fraud or family. Possibly both." He did not ask to see the page. That was another kindness. People think kindness is always leaning in. Sometimes it is leaving a closed file closed. "Do you need counsel?" he asked. "Maybe." "Do you need a witness?" I looked up. "Maybe." He nodded once. "Then make copies." At 2:26, an email came through from an address I did not recognize. Subject: Hawthorne Station, Event Authority, Urgent. The sender was Eleanor Price. "Dear Miss Lawson, I have reason to believe you may not have received prior correspondence regarding Hawthorne Preservation Trust and your scheduled event at Hawthorne Station. I will be at the venue tomorrow morning at 8:30. If you still wish to proceed with your wedding, please do not sign or verbally agree to any cancellation presented by Vivian Lawson or any person claiming to act through her." I read that email once, then again. Then I called the number in the signature. A woman answered on the second ring. "Eleanor Price." "Eleanor Price. This is Mira Lawson." Her voice softened, but only slightly. "I'm glad you called. Who are you?" "A trustee representative for Hawthorne Preservation Trust." I looked at the printed page with my grandmother's name. "Why are you contacting me the day before my wedding?" A pause. "Because I tried sooner. Something moved through me, slow and cold." "My mother? I would rather discuss it in person. I need more than that." "I understand," she said. "Your grandmother left certain notice rights and family use provisions attached to the trust. They do not give your mother control over the venue. They may give you more standing than you currently realize." Standing. Another word that could hold more weight than it seemed. Why didn't I know about this? I believe that is the question your mother hoped you would never ask. I closed my eyes. There it was. Not the whole answer. Just enough to make the room tilt. Eleanor continued. "I will bring documentation tomorrow. Venue counsel will be available if needed. The important thing now is this. Do you still want to marry Caleb Reed at Hawthorne Station?" I thought of Caleb's hand over mine. Ivy practicing her walk. Tessa tying the blue ribbon. My mother's voice saying nobody, like she was stamping a file denied. "Yes," I said. "Then get dressed tomorrow," Eleanor said. "Let us handle the authority." That sentence should have comforted me. Instead, I sat in the empty office and shook for the first time all day, because authority had always belonged to my mother and my family. She decided who was good, who was selfish, who was embarrassing, who deserved help, who had to apologize. She decided the emotional weather and made the rest of us carry umbrellas. And now a stranger was telling me there was another kind of authority, one that had signatures, one that had dates, one that did not care how confidently Vivian Lawson lied. Sunday morning, I woke before my alarm. For a few seconds, I did not remember. Then everything came back at once. The canceled flowers, the property record, Eleanor Price, my mother's voice, Ivy's question. Did I walk too fast? I lay in bed and looked at the ceiling until the alarm went off at 5:30. Then I got up. I made coffee. I packed Ivy's cereal in a container because I knew she would be too nervous to eat at home. I placed the folders in a canvas tote. Vendors, venue, family. I added the printed property record last, sliding it into the back pocket like it was something fragile. Tessa arrived at 6:15 wearing black pants, a lavender sweater, and the expression of a woman prepared to fight God with a lint roller. "I brought muffins," she said. "I can't eat. They're not for you." Nervous children become tiny wolves. Ivy came out of her room in pajamas, hair wild, holding the flower girl basket. "Is today still today?" she asked. I looked at Tessa. Tessa looked at me. Caleb had texted at 6. Today is still today. I knelt in front of Ivy. "Yes," I said. "Today is still today." At Hawthorne Station, the morning light was pale and clean. The atrium windows caught the sun before the rest of the building did. For one brief second, walking in through the side entrance with my dress over one arm and my tote over the other, I saw the room the way I had seen it months ago. Not as a battlefield, just a place with high windows where my daughter could walk. Priya met us at the side door. She looked tired but determined. "Good morning," she said. "Is it? As it?" She smiled. "It can be." That was when I noticed two things. First, the florist's van was in the far parking lot. Second, a woman I had never seen before was standing near the old ticket window holding a cream envelope. She wore a dove-gray suit, low heels, and pearl earrings. Her hair was silver, cut just below her chin. She did not look dramatic. She looked prepared. "Mira Lawson?" she asked. "Yes. I'm Eleanor Price." She held out her hand. Her grip was warm and dry. Then she looked down at Ivy. "And you must be Ivy." Ivy pressed against my leg, suddenly shy. "I have a basket," she said. "I see that," Eleanor said. "It's a very serious responsibility." Ivy nodded, reassured by the gravity. Eleanor turned back to me. "May we speak privately?" The bridal suite at Hawthorne Station was not really a suite. It was a former office with exposed brick, 2 mirrors, a velvet sofa, a rolling rack, and a small bathroom where the sink took too long to drain. But that morning, with the dress hanging from the rack and Tessa setting muffins on the vanity, it felt like a room holding its breath. Eleanor placed the cream envelope on the small table. I stared at my name typed across the front. Mira Lawson. Not Vivian. Not family representative. Me. "I want to be careful," Eleanor said. "You are getting married today, and I do not intend to bury you in legal history before breakfast. That may be the nicest thing anyone has said to me this week." Her mouth softened. "Your grandmother Estelle was my friend." I sat down. That was not what I expected. "You knew her?" "For 31 years. I looked at the envelope again. "My mother never mentioned you." "No," Eleanor said. I imagined she didn't. Tessa, to her credit, pretended to fuss with the steamer while listening with her whole body. Eleanor opened the envelope, but did not remove everything. "Hawthorne Station is controlled by a preservation trust connected to your grandmother's family. Your grandmother was not the sole creator of it, but she had certain rights attached through her branch. One of those rights allowed descendants to request family use of the venue, under specific circumstances. Weddings included. My mother knew. Your mother received notices after Estelle's death. Later notices should have gone to you directly, but the address was never updated from your childhood home. I thought of the envelope slicing my thumb. That was when I was 15, I said. Eleanor looked at me for a long moment. I'm sorry. 2 words, plain, no excuse folded inside them. I had to look away. She continued, recently when your event was booked, your name triggered a review. We sent 2 letters, one in January, one in March. Both went to Oak Meadow Lane. We received no response. Then, on Friday, Mrs. Lawson attempted to cancel the event using language that suggested authority she does not have. What happens now? Now, Eleanor said, you decide whether you still want your wedding here. Yes. Then the event proceeds. It sounded too simple. My mother called vendors. We contacted the ones we could once Priya flagged the issue. Several agreed to return. Some required replacement deposits, which the trust has covered pending review. However, I blinked. You did what? Eleanor looked toward Ivy's basket on the sofa. Your grandmother was very fond of weddings, she said. That almost made me cry, so I did not speak. Eleanor slid one document halfway out of the envelope. I am not going to explain every clause now. Venue counsel, Martin Kessler, is here if Mrs. Lawson forces the issue publicly. If? Eleanor's eyes met mine. She will. The certainty in her voice told me she understood women like my mother. Tessa turned off the steamer. Well, she said, then we'd better get you dressed before the forces of nonsense arrive. It was absurd. It helped. For the next hour, people moved around me with gentle urgency. Tessa steamed my dress. Priya checked vendor arrivals. Ivy ate half a muffin and got crumbs on her tights, proving Tessa right. Caleb's mother, Annette, arrived with the rings because Caleb had decided, wisely, that if he held them, he would check his pocket every 4 seconds until he lost his mind. Annette hugged me carefully so she would not wrinkle the robe. I am so sorry, she said. I was tired of apologies from people who had not hurt me, but hers felt different. She was not apologizing to manage me. She was grieving with me for the morning I should have had. Thank you for coming, I said. She pulled back. Mira, honey, we were always coming. That sentence stayed with me too. At 9:20, Caleb sent a message through his brother because he did not want to see me before the ceremony unless I asked. I am here. I am not going anywhere. Also, Ivy's basket is famous now. 3 people have asked about it. I showed Ivy. She stood taller. At 9:45, Priya came into the bridal suite, holding her tablet like it was a shield. Vivian is here. The room changed. Not loudly. No one gasped. But Tessa's hand stopped over the sewing kit. Annette's mouth tightened. Ivy looked at me. Grandma? Yes, I said. Is she still mad? I touched the blue ribbon on her basket. She is still wrong. That was the best I could do. Priya glanced toward Eleanor. She's in the atrium. She's asking why vendors are setting up. Eleanor picked up the cream envelope. Then we should go. I was in my dress by then. Simple ivory crepe, long sleeves, no beading except at the cuffs. My mother had called it plain when I showed her a photo. I had bought it anyway because when I put it on, I recognized myself. Tessa adjusted the back. You don't have to go out there, she said quietly. Yes, I said. I do. Not because I wanted a scene. Because Vivian had built one and filled it with witnesses. For once, I was not going to clean it up before anyone saw what she had done. The atrium was half wedding, half confusion. White tulips were being placed in glass cylinders. The baker was setting cupcakes on a side table. Chairs had been arranged in rows, though a few guests stood between them, whispering. Caleb was near the front with his brother, wearing a navy suit, and the expression of a man holding himself still for someone else's sake. My mother stood near the old ticket window in a cream dress she had not shown me beforehand. Of course it was cream. Sloane stood beside her in pale pink, holding her phone. My father was a few steps behind them, looking like he wanted to be mistaken for a column. Aunt Maribel sat in the second row, her purse clutched in both hands. Vivian saw me and smiled. Not warmly. Triumphantly. Mira, she said, loud enough for the nearest guests to hear. Thank God. We need to stop this before it becomes more humiliating. The room quieted in layers. A vendor set down a box. Someone coughed. Caleb took one step forward. I gave him the smallest shake of my head. He stopped, though I saw what it cost him. My mother looked pleased by that. She mistook restraint for weakness, as she always had. I have tried to handle this privately, she said, turning slightly toward the guests, but my daughter is determined to make a spectacle. I did not answer. That bothered her. She is emotional, Vivian continued. She has been under pressure. This wedding was rushed, ill-advised, and frankly unfair to everyone who cares about her. Caleb's mother stood. Vivian, she said, voice steady. This is not your announcement to make. My mother barely glanced at her. With respect, Annette, you don't understand our family. There it was. Our family. The locked room. The private language. The place where outsiders were always told they could not understand enough to object. Sloane crossed her arms. Mira, can you please just be mature? Mom has been trying to protect you from making a mistake in front of everyone. I looked at her phone. Are you recording? Her face changed. No. You might want to, I said. That was the first time my mother looked uncertain. only for a second. Then she recovered. "This is exactly what I mean," Vivian said. "Cold, dramatic, punishing everyone, because I dared to say what no one else would." "And what was that?" I asked. My voice sounded calm. I was not calm. My hands were cold. My stomach felt hollow. I could feel Ivy behind me with Tessa, and every part of me wanted to turn around and take her somewhere safe. But I had learned something from documents. Let the record develop. Vivian lifted her chin. "That Caleb is not good enough for you. That you are marrying beneath yourself because you are afraid no one else will want all this responsibility." "All this responsibility?" I repeated. Her eyes moved briefly toward Ivy. The room felt the movement. Even people who did not know us felt it. Vivian smiled tightly. "You know what I mean." "Yes," I said. "I do." Grant stepped forward. "Mira, maybe we should all go somewhere private." I looked at him. For a heartbeat, I remembered being 10 years old, standing in the kitchen while cabinet doors snapped shut, waiting for my father to finally say enough. He looked miserable. He also looked ready to move me out of sight so my mother could breathe easier. "No," I said. "We're already here." His face folded. "Almost. Not enough." Vivian took that as permission to continue. "I made difficult calls because someone had to act like a parent," she said. "The vendors understood." They were very professional once I explained the circumstances. Priya, standing near the side wall, looked down at her tablet. Eleanor stood beside her, still unnoticed by my mother. I asked, "Did you tell the vendors you had authority to cancel on my behalf?" Vivian blinked. "What? Did you tell them you were authorized to cancel the wedding for me?" "Mira, don't be ridiculous. It's a yes or no question." Sloane made a small scoffing sound. "She's doing her work voice," she muttered. I kept my eyes on my mother. Vivian looked around the room. I could see the calculation. If she said no, vendors might contradict her. If she said yes, she could frame it as maternal duty. She chose wrong. "Yes," she said. "I am your mother. I had every right to stop a disaster." The silence after that was clean. Not empty. Clean. Eleanor stepped forward. "Mrs. Lawson," she said. "You did not." My mother turned toward her, irritated. "And you are?" "Eleanor Price, trustee representative for Hawthorne Preservation Trust." Eleanor Price. Vivian's face did something I had never seen before. It did not collapse. It rearranged, like a person realizing a locked door was open behind her. "I don't know what you think you're doing," my mother said. Eleanor placed the cream envelope on the nearest round table. "I am correcting the record." Martin Kessler appeared from the side aisle. He was a tall man with wire-rimmed glasses and a dark suit that looked more courthouse than wedding. He did not look angry. That made him more frightening somehow. My mother looked from Eleanor to Martin to the envelope. "This is a family matter," she said. "No," Eleanor said. "It became a venue matter when you represented yourself as having authority over this event." Martin opened the envelope and removed a document clipped with a blue tab. My blue tabs at work suddenly came to mind, and the strange normalness of that almost made me dizzy. He looked at me. "Miss Lawson, with your permission?" I nodded. My mother snapped, "Permission for what?" "She doesn't even understand what that is." I almost smiled. Almost. Martin adjusted his glasses and read from the document. "Event authority for Hawthorne Station may be exercised only by the named contracting party, the co-contracting party, an appointed representative of Hawthorne Preservation Trust, or a person designated in writing by one of the above. Vivian Lawson is not named in the contract, is not a trust representative, and is not designated in writing by Mira Lawson or Caleb Reed." He stopped. No flourish, no raised voice, just the line. The line was enough. Vivian laughed, but it came out wrong. "This is absurd. I helped arrange this venue. My family has history here." Eleanor removed a second page. "Your family does, through Estelle Hale Mercer." Aunt Maribel made a small sound. My mother's head turned toward her. "Maribel," Vivian warned. Aunt Maribel looked at me, then at the floor, then back at my mother. "I saw the letters," she said. The room held still. Vivian's mouth opened. Aunt Maribel's hands tightened around her purse. "At your house?" she continued, voice trembling but audible. "One in January, one in March. Cream envelopes. Mira's name was on them." My mother's face flushed. "You had no right going through my mail." "I didn't go through it," Aunt Maribel said. "It was on your kitchen counter. You put a magazine over it when I asked." I heard someone behind me whisper, "Oh my God." Sloane looked down at her phone like it might save her. Eleanor turned to me. "Those letters notified you of your right to direct correspondence regarding family use provisions attached to the trust. They also notified Mrs. Lawson that she was not the controlling party for this event." "My mother received letters addressed to me?" I asked, though I already knew the answer. "Yes," Eleanor said. My mother stepped toward me. "Mira, this is being twisted. Those letters were confusing." "I was going to explain after the wedding." "After the wedding you canceled?" Caleb asked. His voice was quiet. That made it land harder. Vivian looked at him like he was furniture that had spoken. "You stay out of this. Out of this." "No," I said. Everyone looked at me. I had not raised my voice. I did not need to. "He is not a nobody," I said. "He is the man I chose. Ivy is not an embarrassment. She is my daughter." "And you are not the authority here." My mother's eyes shone suddenly, not with remorse, with strategy. "Mira, honey," she said, softening so quickly, it made my skin crawl. "You're overwhelmed. I know this looks bad, but I was scared for you. I'm your mother." There it was, the pivot, the same hand, different glove. She reached for me. I stepped back. Her hand hung in the air. Martin cleared his throat. "There is more," he said. Vivian froze. Eleanor gave him a small nod. Martin removed a packet of printed emails and call summaries. Vendor cancellation attempts were made using phrases including authorized family representative, bride, unable to consent due to emotional distress, and family emergency. Several vendors provided call logs and written summaries. These materials will be retained by the trust and forwarded to counsel for review. Sloane whispered, "Mom." Vivian snapped, "Quiet." But it was too late. Priya stepped forward, tablet in hand. "For the venue record," she said, Mrs. Lawson also stated on Friday at 1:16 p.m. that she had spoken for the bride and groom and that no further contact with them was necessary. And Caleb's brother muttered something under his breath. Annette touched his arm. My father looked at me then. Really looked. Not like he was asking me to fix it. Like he was finally seeing the cost of all the times he had. "Mira," he said. "I didn't know about the letters." I believed him. That was the problem. He had not known because not knowing was easier. "You knew about the calls," I said. He closed his eyes. Vivian turned on him. I did. 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 "Grant, don't you dare stand there looking guilty." We agreed she needed time. His eyes opened. There was the almost moment again. The one that makes everyone watching lean forward. Maybe this time. Maybe now. Maybe a father will choose his daughter in the room where it counts. He looked at Vivian, then at me, then at the guests. "Mira," he said quietly, "your mother went too far." My heart moved before I could stop it. Then he added, "But we can still settle this after everyone leaves." And there it died. Not loudly, just finally. I nodded once. "Thank you for clarifying." His face crumpled. He understood what he had done only after he did it. Sloane tried next. "This is insane," she said. "Mira, you're really going to let strangers humiliate Mom at your wedding?" I looked at her. "You helped her." Her mouth tightened. "I did not." "You texted the photographer before she called." Sloane's eyes flashed. "That was because Mom asked me to confirm." She stopped. The room heard the missing ending. I did not fill it in for her. I did not need to. Caleb's mother sat down slowly, as if her knees had stopped trusting the room. Aunt Maribel wiped her eyes. Priya stood very straight. Tessa, behind me, had one hand on Ivy's shoulder. Ivy held the basket with both hands, blue ribbon perfect, watching adults learn something she should never have had to witness. That was when my mother made her last mistake. She looked at Ivy. "If you go through with this," Vivian said to me, voice low but not low enough, "do not expect me to pretend this child's situation is normal, just to make you feel better." The room changed again, not into silence, into judgment. Ivy moved closer to Tessa. Caleb crossed the space between us then. Not fast, not dramatic. He came to stand beside me. "Caleb, my daughter's situation," he said, "is that she is loved." Ivy looked up at him. He did not look down because his eyes were on Vivian. "My daughter," he repeated. I pressed my lips together. There are moments when anger is too small for what you feel. Eleanor's expression hardened for the first time. "Mrs. Lawson," she said, "you will leave the event area now." Vivian stared at her. "You cannot remove me from my daughter's wedding. I can remove a person interfering with a contracted event at a trust-controlled venue," Eleanor said. "And I will." Martin added, "Security is available." My mother looked around the room for rescue. At Sloane, at Grant, at Aunt Maribel, at me, especially at me, because rescue had been my job for so long. "Smooth it over, Mira. Explain what Mom meant, Mira. Don't make her look bad, Mira. Be the bigger person, Mira." I looked at Ivy's basket, then at my mother. "No," I said. It was the smallest word in the room. It did the most damage. Vivian's face twisted. "You'll regret this." I thought about the envelope with my name on it. The one at 15, the ones in January and March, the vendors, the flower basket, my father's almost, Sloane's phone, Caleb, standing beside me, Tessa's steady hand on Ivy's shoulder. "No," I said. I already did. Security did not drag her out. There was no scene that dramatic. That would have made it easier for her later, given her something to point to. Look how they treated me. Look how cruel they were. Instead, Eleanor gestured toward the side exit, and Vivian walked because there were too many eyes on her not to. Grant followed halfway, then stopped. Sloane went with my mother, face pale, phone clutched like a passport. At the door, Vivian turned back. "Mira," she said, voice suddenly shaking. "I am still your mother." I looked at her for a long moment. Then I gave her the sentence I had not planned but somehow had been carrying for years. "Then you should have known I was never yours to cancel." No one clapped. Thank God. Real life rarely gives you applause at the exact moment something breaks open. It gives you a room full of people pretending not to breathe. It gives you a child asking if she should still hold the basket. It gives you a groom whose eyes are wet and a neighbor quietly checking whether your dress has picked up dust near the hem. After my mother left the atrium, I went into the side hallway and put one hand on the wall. Caleb came with me. "Do you want to stop?" he asked. That question healed something in me that the ceremony itself could not. Not because I wanted to stop, because he asked, because he remembered I was a person, not a symbol of victory. "No," I said. "I want to marry you." He nodded. "Good, because I really like the suit." I laughed once, and then I cried. Not much, just enough that Tessa had to appear with tissues and say, "Tilt your face up, sweetheart. Gravity is rude to makeup." Ivy came next. "Can I still walk?" I knelt carefully so I would not crush the dress. "Yes." "Is Grandma Vivian gone?" "Yes." "Is she mad?" "Probably." Ivy thought about that. "Did I do it right?" I pulled her close. "You did nothing wrong." She leaned back. "Can Caleb be my family even if Grandma Vivian says no?" Caleb crouched beside us. "I already am," he said, "if you want me." Ivy looked at me for permission. I nodded. She looked back at him. "Okay, but you have to clap when I walk." "I'll probably cry," he said. "That's allowed." The ceremony started 27 minutes late. The tulips were not exactly what we had ordered, because Denise had done what she could with what was still in her cooler. The cake had a small dent near the bottom that someone turned toward the wall. 2 chairs in the back stayed empty where my mother and Sloane would have sat. My father sat beside Aunt Maribel, looking older than he had an hour earlier. I noticed these things because I noticed details. I also noticed Caleb's face when Ivy appeared at the back of the aisle. She held the basket like it was made of glass. Tessa had filled it with white petals and, because the original order had been short, a few small blue paper hearts Ivy had cut out herself the night before. The ribbon stayed tied. Her steps were careful at first, then steadier when Caleb put one hand over his heart and nodded at her like she was the most important person in the building. She smiled with teeth. Everyone saw. No one questioned whether she belonged. When I walked down the aisle, I did not feel triumphant. That surprised me. I had imagined, maybe, that proof would make me feel powerful. It did not. It made me feel tired and clear. Caleb took my hands. His were warm. The officiant, who had returned after a very confusing Saturday and deserved hazard pay, welcomed everyone with remarkable composure. She did not mention the delay. She did not mention my mother. She spoke about choice, patience, daily kindness, and the ordinary work of loving someone after the flowers are gone. When it was time for vows, Caleb unfolded his paper and then laughed softly. I wrote 3 versions, he said. This is the shortest one, because Mira appreciates efficiency. People laughed, gently. He looked at me. I promise to listen when you say something doesn't add up. I promise not to mistake your calm for agreement. I promise to love Ivy in actions, not titles. And I promise that when life gets strange, as it apparently enjoys doing, you will not stand in strange rooms alone. I had to look down. My vows were on paper too, but I did not read all of them. I promise to let you help me, I said, even when my first instinct is to make a folder and survive quietly. More laughter. I promise to tell the truth sooner. I promise to build a home where Ivy never has to earn her place. And I promise to choose you out loud, even when someone else thinks love should ask permission. I promise today. I promise today. I promise today. I promise to build. I promise today. I promise today. I promise today. I promise today. That was one of the few times my voice shook. Caleb squeezed my hands. We exchanged rings. We were married in the same room where my mother had tried to end it. That mattered. Not because the room was magic, because I did not give her the power to turn every place she wounded me into a place I had to avoid. At the reception, people were careful at first. They spoke softly, as if I had come from a funeral instead of a ceremony. Then Ivy spilled lemonade on one white tight, Tessa said. Prophecy fulfilled. And the room loosened. Denise, the florist, hugged me near the cupcake table. I knew something was off, she said. Your mother kept saying the bride can't speak, but she never sounded worried. She sounded annoyed. That sounds right. I'm glad I saved the call log. Me too. Priya found me later with a clipboard. Everything is proceeding, she said. You sound surprised. I am professionally delighted. I smiled. Thank you for calling me Friday. She looked down at the clipboard. My mother used to do things and call them concern, she said quietly. Different details. Same weather. Then she walked away before I had to answer. My father approached me after dinner. I saw him coming and felt my whole body prepare for an old dance. Mira, don't be hard on her. Mira, family is complicated. Mira, you know she loves you. But he stopped a few feet away. You looked beautiful, he said. Thank you. I'm sorry. I waited. He swallowed. I should have stopped her. Yes, he flinched. I didn't know about the letters. No, but I knew enough. That was the closest he had ever come to the truth. For a second, I wanted to soften it for him. Old habit, old role. Then Ivy ran past us with a cupcake, Caleb's nephew chasing her with a napkin, and I remembered who I was responsible for now. I can't make this easier for you, I said. He nodded, eyes wet. I know. I don't think you do yet. He looked toward the door where my mother had left. Will you talk to her? Not today. Later? I don't know. That was generous. Maybe too generous. But it was honest in that moment. He nodded again and returned to his table. Aunt Maribel came next, after the first dance, while Caleb was dancing with Ivy because she had demanded a turn and then stood on his shoes. I should have said something when I saw the letters, she said. I looked at her small hands around her water glass. Yes, I said. She closed her eyes. I was afraid of your mother. I know. That's not an excuse. No, she opened her eyes. You're very much like Estelle. I did not know what to do with that. My grandmother had been a porch light, steady, quiet. There. I wish I had known her as an adult, I said. She knew you, Aunt Maribel said, more than Vivian wanted. Before I could ask what that meant, Eleanor appeared at my side. Not tonight, she said gently. Aunt Maribel nodded and walked away. I turned to Eleanor. What does that mean? It means there are more documents, she said. None of them need to be read in a wedding dress. I almost laughed. Are they bad? They are clarifying. That's a lawyer answer. I work near lawyers. It spreads. She handed me a business card. Call me Tuesday. Enjoy tonight. I looked at the card, then at her. Why did you come in person? Eleanor's face changed, softened by memory. Because Estelle once came in person for me. She did not explain. For once, I let a mystery wait. The next 2 weeks were not as clean as people might want them to be. My mother left voicemails, at first angry, then tearful, then strange and sweet. Mira, I know you think I hurt you, but someday you'll understand. Mira, we need to talk before lawyers make this ugly. Mira, I miss Ivy. Mira, I am your mother. She sent Caleb one message too. You have divided a family that was already fragile. He showed it to me without answering. I blocked her number for 30 days on the advice of a counselor. I started seeing the Thursday after the wedding, not because I wanted someone to tell me my mother was wrong. I knew that. I went because my body still reacted to her name like a door slamming, and I did not want Ivy to inherit my flinch. The trust's attorney sent formal notices. Vivian was removed from all legacy contact records. Future correspondence came directly to me. There were questions about intercepted mail, misrepresentation to vendors, and whether any financial benefit had been improperly directed over the years. I will not pretend I understood all of it immediately. I understood enough to know my mother had counted on my ignorance and called it family privacy. Sloane texted once from a new number. Hope humiliating Mom was worth it. I replied with a screenshot of her message to the photographer and nothing else. She did not text again. My father asked to meet for coffee. I agreed after 3 weeks, in a cafe with large windows and no family audience. He looked thinner. He apologized again, this time without mentioning my mother's feelings. That mattered. Not enough to fix everything, enough to begin a different kind of conversation. When he asked if he could see Ivy, I said, "Not until I know you won't use her as a bridge to Mom." He nodded. I understand. I watched his face, waiting for resentment. There was sadness. There was also, maybe, respect. Time would tell. Vivian did not get a dramatic downfall. She did not lose her house overnight or get dragged into court in front of cameras. Real consequences are often quieter than fantasies. They arrive as locked accounts, unanswered calls, removed names, revoked access, people declining invitations, and rooms where your version of the story no longer works. At church, someone asked her why she had left her daughter's wedding before the ceremony. At the garden club, Denise's sister apparently said, "I heard the bride looked beautiful, and nothing else." Nothing else can be brutal when someone is waiting for you to ask their side. My mother had lived for years on the power of being the first narrator. That power was gone. The last time I saw her that spring was at my father's request. He asked if I would come to the house to pick up a box of things from my grandmother that Aunt Maribel had found in the attic. I told him I would come only if Vivian did not speak to Ivy. Ivy stayed with Tessa anyway. I went alone. The house looked smaller than it had when I was a child, or maybe I had finally become larger inside it. My mother sat at the kitchen table, wearing a blue blouse and no lipstick. The box was on the counter. My father stood near the sink, nervous. Vivian looked at me like I had arrived to perform a role she had rehearsed without me. "You look tired," she said. I picked up the box. "No, Mom. Her mouth tightened. "I only meant, I know what you meant." She looked at my father, then back at me. "Are we really going to be like this?" I'm not sure who we are now. I made mistakes," she said. I waited. "I was afraid you were settling," she continued. "I was afraid you'd wake up trapped." There it was, the cleaner version, the one with concern polished over control. "You banned Ivy from being Flower Girl." Her eyes flickered. I was upset. You called her situation abnormal. I didn't mean it that way. You said it in a room full of people. She pushed back from the table. You remember every word like a weapon. No, I said. I remember every word because I was trained to survive them. My father looked down. Vivian's eyes filled. I'm still your mother. The old sentence, the last card. It did not work anymore. I know, I said. That's why it hurt. She cried then, quietly at first, then with one hand over her mouth. There was a time I would have gone to her. I would have touched her shoulder. I would have made my pain smaller so hers could take up the room. I held the box instead. I'm taking time, I said. Do not contact Ivy. Do not contact Caleb. If you need to communicate about legal documents, use the attorney. You're punishing me. I'm protecting my home. She looked at me like the difference was offensive. I left before she could make me explain it twice. Inside the box were old photographs, 2 of my grandmother's cardigans, a chipped glass peppermint dish, and a small bundle of letters tied with string. On top was a photo of me at about 7 years old, sitting on Estelle's porch steps with a popsicle in one hand. My grandmother sat beside me, not smiling at the camera, but at me. Behind us, the porch light was on. I sat on my living room floor and cried over that photo longer than I had cried over my mother's voicemails. Later, Ivy found the peppermint dish and asked if we could put buttons in it. Not candy? I asked. She shrugged. Buttons last longer, so we put buttons in it. Blue, white, brown, silver. One from Caleb's old coat. One from Ivy's sweater. One pearl button that had come loose from my wedding dress cuff during the reception. Tessa sewed the cuff later and said the dress had earned a scar. The flower girl basket ended up on the bookshelf in Ivy's room for a while. Then one afternoon, I found her using it to carry crayons, 2 stuffed birds, and a granola bar with 1 bite taken out of it. Is that okay? She asked. Yes, I said. It's yours, but it was for the wedding. It can be for more than 1 day. She accepted that easily. Children do that when adults let them. Caleb and I did not become perfect after the wedding. No one does. We argued about where to put the toaster. I got irritated when he loaded the dishwasher like gravity was a theory. He got quiet once when I made a decision without him because I was used to not asking. We learned. We apologized. We tried again, but our home became steady in ways I had not known to ask for. On Sundays, Caleb made pancakes. Ivy drew birds at the table. Tessa came over sometimes after church with extra thread or gossip about neighbors who overwatered their lawns. Eleanor visited once in June and brought copies of documents in a neat folder, along with a small framed photograph of my grandmother at a Hawthorne Station fundraiser in 1989. Estelle was younger than I remembered, laughing at something outside the frame. On the back, in blue ink, she had written, "For the girls who come after us." I kept that photo on my desk at work, not because the trust made me rich. It did not. There were rights, notices, family provisions, and some financial corrections still being untangled by people who build in 6-minute increments. The material part mattered, but it was not the center. The center was that my name had been on the envelope. My mother had taken it, and still, somehow, it found me. I think about that often, not in a magical way, in a practical one. Denise saved a call log. Priya questioned an authority claim. Harold unlocked an office. Tessa tied a ribbon. Eleanor came in person. Caleb stood beside me. Ivy asked the question no adult could polish. No single person saved the wedding. A chain of decent people did. My mother had built her power by making everyone feel alone with her. The moment we started comparing notes, her story fell apart. That is what I want you to understand, if this story sounds familiar. Sometimes the person calling you dramatic is terrified you will become specific. Specific is where the truth lives. A date, a time, a sentence, a signature, a child's question, an envelope addressed to the person who was supposed to receive it. For years, I thought peace meant keeping things smooth. Now I know some smooth things are just covered cracks. I do not hate my mother. That surprises people. Hate would keep me facing her, and I have spent enough of my life turned in her direction. What I have now is distance, records, boundaries, and a front door that does not open just because someone uses the word family. Ivy still has the basket. The blue ribbon is faded now, and one side of the handle has a little bend where she stepped on it while building a blanket fort. Sometimes she uses it for crayons. Sometimes for doll clothes. Once, she filled it with white petals from the tulips Caleb planted by the porch and walked slowly through the living room while he clapped like she had asked him to months before. She looked at me and said, "I'm good at walking." I said, "Yes, you are." And I meant more than the basket. That's my story. A white flower girl basket, the sentence, "No daughter of mine marries a nobody," and a porch light I finally stopped waiting for because we built our own. If someone in your life only values you when you are useful, take this as your sign to notice who shows up when there is nothing to gain. Write down what happened. Trust the people who treat your child, your peace, and your future like they matter. And if this story stayed with you, leave a comment telling me where you're listening from, and subscribe to By Then I Knew for more stories about quiet people who finally let the record speak.